Have you ever organized a space in your home and a short time later it's a mess again? Well, I certainly have. Today I'm pointing out 10 ways to avoid these common organizing mistakes so our homes can work for us and not the other way around. Don't organize until you have already decluttered, and I have a few reasons for this, and I have definitely done this the opposite way where I organized and then I realized I actually needed to declutter first, and that's why I'm sharing this tip today. The main reason for this is if we organize first before we declutter, we're actually wasting our time and we're not organizing right because we're organizing items that we don't even want to keep in our homes. So definitely make sure to declutter first. And a really good example I have is before I really knew about decluttering, I would always try to organize my 1-year-old's toys way back when he was 1 year old, he's 9 now. And I would organize the area over and over and over again. And I could never figure out why this certain area of our home would not stay organized. And it turned out we just had way too much stuff in that area. Don't forget to look at the big picture of your home as a whole. I know I have completely missed this step in the past and started to micro-organize little areas and didn't pay attention to the whole entire way our house functions. I pay attention to the most used areas and the least used areas of my home, and I break it into zones. So the most used area, to be honest, is our front little hall here. And we have a very tiny, narrow, yet deep closet. And when I first moved in here, I organized this in a way that really didn't make sense for our home. I stored a whole bunch of stuff in there that we rarely used. And I realized that it was just a wasted opportunity that I could use that closet for the more functional things that we need every single day as we're leaving the house and coming into our home. So now what I've done is I've put all of the cleaning supplies that I do use once in a while towards the back, since it's a really narrow, deep closet. And I've put the things that I use and need as I'm walking out the door. So for instance, I hang my hat in there. I have the vacuum right at the front because I pull that out constantly throughout the day and throughout the week. And then I also hang our swim bag in there since my boys swim all year long, and my coat because it's currently winter. So I'm not storing things in there. That is just being used for my everyday items. But what I did was I added some hooks so I could hang everything I needed in there depending on the season. And I put all of the items that we don't need to get to all the time towards the very back. And that was just a great way to pay attention to how our home is laid out and really prioritize the areas that are used all the time. Don't let extra space go to waste, especially if you need it. So I like to pay attention to where I can add some extra hooks here and there, where I can add an extra shelf, even if it's really high up in a closet, then that way I can put items that we don't use very often, maybe off-season items, way up in the highest part of the closet. And I just try to pay attention to any extra space that can be utilized in the garage, in closets, and places that you may not think about. So getting creative will actually help you to stay more organized. I just want to mention though, by becoming more minimal and decluttering a lot of things, we actually have a lot of space, and that's no longer an issue for us. But in our previous house, it was a little bit harder because there was less storage and we had to really get creative with where we were putting things. Do not be upset if your home does not look Pinterest perfect when it comes to organizing. So we see all these beautiful images on Pinterest and on Instagram, and even on YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube channels where they organize in such a beautiful way. And honestly, I'm jealous of that because my home doesn't look like that. But that does not mean that my home is not organized. I think you can have a really super duper organized home, and it doesn't have to look perfect with everything in a clear bin and everything color coded. Seriously, you can still be organized without all of that. Here is my pantry, and you will see here that yes, I do have some bins to keep things separated, but it in no way looks like a Pinterest perfect picture. I have bags. I don't decant everything because it just feels like a waste of time. I have off-season shoes, and guess what? I store a lot of those shoes in the boxes they came in because it keeps them dust-free and spider-free and all of that. And I just put them up into the very top of my closet where I don't need them depending on what season it is. And no, it does not look Pinterest perfect. It does not look amazing, but it's very, very functional and it is organized. So I just think we need to normalize normal looking homes and normal ways to organize. And if you get creative, a lot of the time you can use boxes and things that you already have, and that will save you a lot of money as well. Not all organizing trends are great. And let me explain here. I have some open shelves in my kitchen and I love them, but to be honest, they are more of a decorative way to organize. I usually keep things up there that look nicer because most of us do not have all of our dishes matching, all of our coffee mugs matching. Usually it's a big mismatched mess, and that all looks better when it's hidden behind a cupboard. And honestly, in a lot of ways, it's easier to organize when something's hidden behind a cupboard because you can use Lazy Susans and you can use stacking little shelf things to put the coffee cups on top of each other. When you have open shelves, you could do that, but it's very ugly. And I think when we look at open shelves, we just want to look at something pretty. So yes, they can work in some ways if all of your dishes and everything looks really nice. In other ways, it can just look like an unsightly mess. So some trends I think definitely need to be taken with a grain of salt, even if they are pushed as an organizing trend. I think we need to think about these things and if they actually will work for us in our home. And luckily, the shelves I have in my kitchen, like I said, are more of a decorative thing. We definitely utilize them, but I have to have things hidden away in a basket and I have to have the coffee cups that match out there, or else it would just drive me nuts to look at all of that. Here's a case of open shelving that really looks super crowded, but it works for my kids because they can find everything easily. My mom gave me this awesome tip, which is do not start to organize until you are prepared. And what she meant by this is if you're going to organize, let's say your closet, make sure you have all your clothes and make sure they're all clean and ready and in your room when you're ready to start organizing. Because if you organize and you don't have everything, and then all of a sudden a load of laundry comes in and you have all these clothes, now you have to reorganize. She also gave me the example of a dishwasher, which I wouldn't have thought of because I don't have a dishwasher, which is if you're gonna organize your kitchen and your dishes, just make sure the dishwasher's empty, make sure you have everything in that one spot so you're prepared and you're ready to organize and you don't have a whole bunch of items coming in later where you're trying to figure out where they should go. It is so easy to get distracted when you're trying to organize or declutter an area of your home. The distractions can come from anywhere, but I find that a lot of the time I get the most distracted by my phone, or if I have a TV going or some kind of noise, I will sometimes get sidetracked, especially my phone. So what I usually try to do is not have my phone in the room that I'm working in. You can also put it on silent. I try to have the TV off and just have a quiet moment so I can think about how I want to organize an area or declutter the items, and definitely by avoiding distractions I can get a lot more done. This excellent tip also came from my mom, which is organize by priority. And I do this naturally, but I didn't think about it. I wasn't gonna add this in here. It makes so much sense though. And the example I have is I have a really heavy bread machine that's pretty tall, and I think logically we would think, let's put that to the back and then put the smaller things in front so we can see them. But I actually organize by priority. I want to use that bread machine as much as possible. I don't want to forget about it. So I actually, and it's heavy, so I keep that at the front of my cabinet and I put the bowls and things that I'm not using as often towards the back. And yes, that can be a pain because I need to move the machine to get the other stuff, but because I'm not using those items as often, they're not a priority, and the bread machine is a priority, that is how I like to organize. And I feel like it really does help. And when my mom said that, it like clicked in my head, oh yeah, I already do that, but that's such a good tip, and I wanted to share it with all of you in case you don't know that or didn't think of it. And it really is just put those items you use all the time at the front at eye level where you're gonna be able to grab them as easily as possible to make it just one less step for yourself to have to move a whole bunch of stuff. Don't buy organizers until you have already started organizing and you have a really good idea of where you're going to be putting these items. I have fallen into this trap so many times. I've been somewhere and I thought, oh, that looks like a really good organizer. I'm just gonna buy that and it's gonna be great. I have an idea of where I'm gonna put it. Not knowing the shape, the size, and all of that, didn't have the measurements, and just bought the item, brought it home, and it didn't fit. Seriously, I've done this so many times. I've done it from IKEA, Home Goods, all the places where you can get the organizers. So now what I do is I start to organize the area. I take measurements of all the drawers and closets, whatever I'm organizing. I write down all the measurements. I also bring my measuring tape. One time I was at Home Goods and I had my measuring tape. I was measuring a basket and this man came up to me and he said, that is such a good idea. I wish I had wrote down the measurements and brought a measuring tape. And I do that now all the time. I usually always have a measuring tape in my purse, but it really helps when you don't want to have to either buy all these things and waste your money or even have the hassle of having to go back and return them. Don't try to organize too much at one time, just like you wouldn't try to declutter your whole entire home in one day. Definitely, I would not try to organize your whole home in one day. This takes time and it takes a lot of energy. So I would definitely break the organizing process into chunks and different spaces and just break it all up. For instance, when I was organizing my office, it took several days. I would spend 30 minutes just organizing my desk drawers. Then I would spend another 30 minutes organizing my office closet. And by doing that, it just helps to not get fatigued. These are the simple strategies I've used to transform my home into an organized area that's super functional for us. You can click right here to see 47 items to declutter today that you won't even think twice about.